of punishment, which makes you really think that it was some type of weapon or some type of technology that they had in the past. In the Catholic Jesuit stories of Saint Barbara, it's recounted that when the saint was pursued by her sword-wielding father, Dioscorus, he learned of his daughter's acceptance of the new faith. Her location was given away by a shepherd. The shepherd was then punished for his deed by being turned into stone, while his flock was turned into locust. It's also interesting to note that Saint Barbara was a Phoenician, so this is some kind of reference speaking of the transition between paganism of the old world and the new religious world. There is a painting that kind of shows this, and they never really discuss in the legends how he was turned into stone. The father was a pagan, and so the idea is that he had some type of magic in order to do this. I also forgot to mention that after Medusa was killed by Perseus, it was used as a weapon to turn enemies into stone. In Homer's Odyssey, it's mentioned that Poseidon turned a ship of the Phaeacians into stone. And that name is very close to the Phoenicians, but it's not the same. And their punishment was for having helped his foe, Odysseus. Badus was a figure in Greek mythology who witnessed Hermes stealing Apollo's cattle. He agreed to keep the affair secret, but when Hermes returned in disguise to test him, he broke his word and was punished by being turned into stone. Now back to what I was saying about the statues. If they really knew of some type of petrifaction process in the past, don't you think they would try to use it? It gets better too. There are several references to statues that have a myth associated with it being a human in the past. In a Czech village called Druzek, there is a sandstone Marian column from 1674 and a man-sized stone called Zakamenelik, man turned into stone, surrounded with legends of a punished perjurer or blasphemer. At the village of Nowa Slupia in Poland, there is this so-called stone pilgrim, a stone figure of a kneeling man, located near main entrance to the national park. According to a legend, the figure once was a vain knight who went on a pilgrimage to the abbey. Upon hearing the sound of the bells, he stated that they tolled in his honor, for which he was punished and turned into stone. The Lincoln Imp is a grotesque on a wall inside Lincoln Cathedral, England. It had become the symbol of the city of Lincoln. A legend tells of it being a creature sent to the cathedral by Satan, only to be turned into stone by an angel. The Christian saint Saint Hild or Hilda was credited with having miraculously turned snakes into stone. The ammonite fossils found in large numbers at Sandsend were considered as such. The coat of arms of nearby Whitby actually included 3 such snake stones. The Merry Maidens, a late Neolithic stone circle located 2 miles to the south of the village of St. Burion in Cornwall, United Kingdom, are considered by local myth to be 19 maidens who were turned into stone as punishment for dancing on a Sunday. This idea is very popular in Gaelic myths, such as with the 9 maidens of Boscadan, the Tregaziel dancing stones, and the hurlers. They say that the Cardiff giant was a massive hoax, but now it kind of makes you really think. Who knows, maybe there's something else to the story when you take into consideration all the myths. An Icelandic legend about the island of Drangi says that 2 night-prowling giants, a man and a woman, were traversing the fjord with their cow when they were surprised by the bright rays of daybreak. As a result of the exposure to daylight, all 3 were turned into stone. The Aboriginal legend from Australia of the 3 Sisters, a rock formation in Australia, is about 3 sisters from the Blue Mountains who fell in love with 3 men from the neighboring Dorok tribe, but the marriage was forbidden by tribal law. Their brothers were not happy to accept this law, and so decided to capture the 3 sisters. A major tribal battle followed, and the sisters were turned into stone by an elder to protect them, but he was killed in the fighting and no one else could turn them back. Malin Kundang is a folktale originated from Indonesia, with similar versions spread around other regions in Southeast Asia. The story was about a poor sailor who became rich, owned trading galleons, and married a princess through hard works. However, when he came back to his village, he was ashamed to his poor mother and disowned her. The mother cursed him to become a stone as punishment. The mountain of Antria, looming over the area of Tositeli in present-day Greece. It's known for its forests, freshwater springs, and old legends about girls who turned into stone. Singhasan Batisi is a collection of Indian folktales. The title literally means 32 Tales of the Throne. In the frame story, the 11th century king, Bhoja, discovers the throne of the legendary ancient king, Vikramaditya, and the throne had 32 statues who were actually asparas that had been turned into stone due to a curse. There are actually many references in the Vedas referring to this curse that turns people into stones. A legend told at Karnak states that the Karnak stones were once pagan soldiers who were turned into stone by Pope Cornelius, who was fleeing from them. So again, they're claiming that this stuff is magic, but what if it's some type of technology or antiquitech? As we will see, maybe they learned about this because it happens in nature frequently, and during cataclysms many are turned into stone, but isn't it interesting that this legend was shared around the world by almost every culture? This is translated into the modern day with concepts such as gargoyles and demons by night, and as the sun rises they turn into stone again. Then we have the most famous story of them all with Lot's wife. As she looked back on Sodom, she was turned into stone. And it's not as crazy as it really sounds. I mean, outside of myth, we know that petrifaction does happen with every living thing. I mean, that's what we call fossils, or even the lie of dinosaurs, which is out of the scope of this video. But what if, just like our timeline, they lied or simply used faulty equipment and or started from a false premise on the dating of most of these fossils and geological forms? There are several legends of dinosaurs and other fantastic creatures being here just centuries ago, so is it possible that they all turned to stone too? We know that trees can petrify, but the difference is that they tell you this takes millions of years. What if it doesn't, and all it takes is some type of cataclysm, intense heat, or even some type of plasmic apocalypse? So now that we can entertain that idea, well, what about buildings? Sure, they're basically already made from stone, but what if an event could turn them into a solid form? And or after the ages, these massive ancient megaliths slowly transformed into the terrain and subterranean formations that we have around us. In my opinion, I think many of these Neolithic circle formations like Stonehenge were purposely constructed in order to give the illusion that this is what the ancients were capable of. They were just stone-pushing pagan Neanderthals. That's what they want you to think. Don't look at all the nearby cathedrals that the Catholic Jesuit Church took over. No, look at these formations and give them some type of legend to continue going, so that we really just think that the ancients were cavemen. One thing that I thought that was super interesting is this cave called the Cavern of Lost Souls. There's a lot of mystery to this place, and it's pretty famous on the internet now because all these cars from the 80s are down in the cave and no one knows how or why they were put down there. There's like thousands of them all stacked upon each other, and I was watching this video and they found the sword down there, and they were talking about how the Cave of Lost Souls is associated with King Arthur. There really isn't too much information on this online, or official information, but it's basically just said that it's an abandoned mine, and to me, it doesn't really look that there's any way they carved all this way out. It sort of looks like some kind of ancient Skyrim map. It really just makes you wonder if other caves could be the petrified remains of old castles, such as King Arthur's cave and Merlin's cave, that have these arched entrances. There's this really awesome video that talks about the location of Sodom and Gomorrah being located in the Dead Sea. I'll leave the full video in the description.
When the morning dawned, the angels urged Lot to hurry, saying, "Arise, take your wife and your 2 daughters, who are here, lest you be consumed in the punishment of the city." Lot, his wife and daughters, all fled from the terrible destruction of Sodom.